And yeah, the problem started. It's not easy to organize an alternative summit in a dictatorship. We ordered, so we were a network of lots of very big human rights organizations. Amnesty International, Reporters Without Borders, Human Rights Watch, nearly everyone was involved in that. And it was not possible to get a room in Tunis. We booked hotels, very big international hotels, and it was always be dropped. Do you want to talk? It was always be cancelled for several reasons. Sometimes, yeah, security reasons. Sometimes reconstruction, and yeah, every week there was a new cancel. And okay, so we had no room. At the beginning of the summit, we had a website which was blocked by the Tunisian filtering system. We had no room, we had the whole plan, we had all the people involved. And there was a meeting at the Goethe Institute in the Monday before the summit started. Have you have been there? No? Okay, yeah, but you can better talk about it.
So what happens is, they wanted to have a meeting, and because they couldn't find a space anywhere, they said, well, let's try to find a space that might offer us some protection. And the Goethe Institute, because it's related to the German government, and it's related to the embassy of Germany in Tunisia, they said, well, if we have it there, then it will actually be, we'll have some diplomatic protection. The Goethe Institute can't say we're under construction, because the building's already done. And so some people started to go into the building, but then what happens is, well, it's a building. And so around the building, you need to get to the building. And so then the Tunisian forces basically cordoned off the building. And they cordoned off all the streets around it. Curiously enough, is the Canadian embassy is right across the street. And so they could watch everything that was going on. And so what happened is, they didn't allow people from Tunisia to enter the building, to the point that the German ambassador went to the building and basically said, I'm the German ambassador. This person is with me, happened to be a Tunisian, I want to go in. And the Tunisian authorities did not allow that. And of course, the press was there, the press was filming this, and either the Tunisian police or otherwise took their camera, took their film away. And so because it was a diplomatic compound, it belonged to the German government, actually it was the EU, then the EU got involved. And so there were these threats back and forth to say, hang on. And so what happens is, no one was beaten up. I think some people, one or two people were, but there was just a lot of armed response not to allow people in the building. And, that was shocking for a lot of people that this would happen at a German cultural institution. And so the issues of freedom of expression were really highlighted at the summit itself. In one aspect, 20 kilometers away, they were saying there's freedom of expression in Tunisia, and then we were seeing the practicality that didn't work. So what happened is, well, they managed to organize an alternate summit. There was some meetings that were done. And then the whole idea was not only that people could go there and talk about issues they couldn't talk about, but also to help people collaborate, to move forward some of the issues, to actually help the Tunisians understand some of the issues and give them the space. And so as a result, what's happened is we all left. But the Tunisians basically said, we can actually work together. And so some of the progressive, independent, non-governmental people said, let's start to join forces. So afterwards, there was a joint solidarity group, and now there's this unification, and there's actually a stronger will to work together, and so that's a positive development. But getting into the issue of freedom of expression, one of the things that we found is not only were there impossibilities to access buildings because they were meetings, but the same thing is online. And so there are particular websites that might publish information about Tunisia. There was a famous blogger who had a weblog about the Tunisian president. It was mildly critical. That website was blocked. The person was in prison for 3 years. There was this whole campaign of all these international organizations. He was released a year and a half ago, and then mysteriously died in March. And so there's all these issues, and they're very innocent things, even cartoons that, have the president smiling the wrong way. The photograph that that you just saw before, where we have the president, we have digital solidarity, and we have that. If we were to do that in Tunisia, we would be in prison and tortured. And so that tells you something. And so websites can't be accessible. For the longest time, the website of Amnesty International was not accessible in Tunisia at all. And for more information on this, the OpenNet Initiative, which is a project of several universities, have published a very descriptive report on the type of ways that the internet gets blocked in Tunisia. And for those of you who might understand some of this, or those of you who want to be creative, and we really hope that some of you will be, is there's a filtering program called Smart Filter. And from their website it says, the web you want, the control you need. And that filtering software is not only being used by Tunisia, but it's being used by over 92% of countries that filter content for their citizens. And so, you know, I'm not sure if this is a call for arms, but if people want to do something productive and you want to make sure that countries like Tunisia and others can access the website, figure out the vulnerabilities in Smart Filter. And you'll be actually helping not only the people in Tunisia, but otherwise as well. And so what's next?
Yeah. Okay, very quickly, we only have like 3 minutes left and want to take some questions. Of course, the issue is we left Tunisia a month ago, and how do we make sure all the groups and independent opposition people who worked with us still have some protection? They, of course, had some protection during the summit when the world public was watching Tunisia, but how does it work now? How do we make sure they don't get tortured after we left? So there's still close contact. A lot of our colleagues still have close links and regular exchange with the Tunisian people. And there will be a few more monitoring missions from human rights organizations who will again come to Tunisia and do reports on what's the situation after the summit. And I think the general aspect that we raised public awareness about the fact that Tunisia is not just a nice holiday country, but also a repressive regime that filters and censors and tortures, that somehow is stuck in the world public, at least in the back of their head now, and you can easily raise it again if something happens. Then, of course, there's the whole big other question of what happens after these two summits. Is it just a huge pile of paper that was produced and a huge ton of travel expenses for all these diplomats and activists? Or does it really have any impact on the real world, on the ground? So there will be some follow-up in the UN system on implementation. Implementation, of course, has to be done on the national, local, and regional level mostly. They set some goals in the summit declarations, like they want to link every school on Earth and every public library to the internet by 2015, which to us here in Germany maybe it sounds a bit funny, but imagine, I mean, rural, small, local village libraries in Africa or elsewhere. It's really a challenge to connect all of them by 2015.
A lot if they don't have water.
Yeah.
How will we get the internet there?
Electricity and so on. One problem with this implementation thing is that the way it's coordinated is not really coordination. It's just everybody is doing all kinds of projects, and they all can say, our project is helping to achieve the summit goals and to bridge the digital divide. And they can enter it into this big ITU database, the stock-taking database, and it's like a showcase thing of best practices. The problem then is who decides what is best practice for whom? So it's a bit, to my understanding, it's a very liberal and also market-driven approach, because it's not really, as we said, it's not really defined that what are best practices and what are the critical things and basically where the money comes from. Okay, of course there will be a political debate following up on all the different issues, because as technology evolves, new issues will emerge and some of the old conflicts remain. There was a big fight about intellectual property and free software and stuff like that of course remains. It's just moving sometimes to different forums, like the World Intellectual Property Organization or the European Union level and so on. And as we said, there will be this Internet Governance Forum, which will talk about more things than just ICANN. So they will also talk about developing aspects, development policy aspects, and human rights aspects and other aspects of internet governance. So we are at the moment trying to get the privacy commissioners, the data protection commissioners interested in that, for example. The first meeting of this forum will be later in 2006 in Athens.
I see the clock and our time is up and we had one more slide, but we can't get to it. And so our very last slide is probably the best one. Do you have more questions? Do you want to know more? You've seen us here. Here's our contact information. We've been very much involved in this over the last 4 years. It's been a very interesting process. We didn't get to talk about what strategies and what things that we learned, so we're more than happy to share that with you in a very maybe informal way over the course of the day. So again, thank you very much for your time, for your patience, for your questions, and we look forward to hearing from you. And again, thank you for attending our talk.